Hi everybody, we're going to do the Unit 8 end of unit study guide. So it says the scatter plot shows the relationship between the number of hours spent driving and the total number of miles driven. Which statements incorrectly describe the relationship? Choose all that are incorrect. So the line of best fit will pass through the origin. Well, if I'm looking at my line, it's going to pass through the origin, so that's correct. The slope of the line is negative. Well, this is a positive slope, so that's incorrect. There is no association between the variables. Well, yeah, they are. It's a positive association, so that's incorrect. The relationship between the variables is linear. Well, that's correct. It does make a line. The relationship is positive. That's also true. The relationship is non-linear. That's not true. So B, C, and F were the incorrect options. Okay, a study determined the number of hours participants watched TV and the number of hours they spent exercising each week. The data is shown in the scatter plot. So I want the incorrect answers. So the scatter plot indicates in general, when study participants watch more television, they spent less time exercising. Well, that's true because it's got a negative association. So if I watch TV for 15 hours per week, I spent less than 5 hours per week exercising. If an equation of y in the form of y equals mx plus b is used, the b will be less than 0. Well, that's not true because the y-intercept's going to be somewhere up here, so b has to be greater than 0. So b is incorrect. If there is one individual in the study who has watched more than 20 hours of TV, well, that's true. The data in the scatter plot do not lie on a line. This indicates the number of hours spent watching TV and exercising are not linearly associated. Well, that's not true because I can get a line of best fit. So B and D are the incorrect answers. Which scatter plots show a linear association, meaning it has to make a line? Well, D, this one's no association. This one's no association. This one is positive nonlinear. This one's negative nonlinear. So it was just D. These points have been graphed on a scatter plot. Which of the following points would not be considered an outlier? Okay, so if I wanted to put my points on here, I wonder if I can use Desmos to do it. 2, 9, and then 4, 6, and then 6, 5, eight, 4. All right, so those are my points. So right now it's going down. So they want to know which would not be considered an outlier. Okay, so 10-3. Well, 10-3 would not be considered an outlier. 9-7. Well, 9-7 kind of moves over to the side a little bit, so I'm going to put 9-7 as a question mark. 8, 3. So 8-3 is still on the line. So that's not an outlier. 5, 5. Five, 5 is still in there, so that's not an outlier. And then 3, 1. Well, that's way outside the line. So this one would be an outlier. So A, C, and D would fit on the line. All right. Simon is measuring his weight over 5 months. Enter a slope of the line of best fit. Okay, so the rise is 5, and the run is 2 blocks makes 1 whole. So rise over run, so 5 over 1, and it's going down, so that's a negative slope. So my answer would be -5 would be the slope. All right, we need to decide, is this a positive association, negative, or no association? Well, it looks like it's going up. So I'm going to go with a positive association. Okay, each day for 2 weeks, Howard recorded the values of 2 variables. S is the number of students ahead of him in the lunch line, and M is the number of minutes that elapsed when he got into line and sat down. So he plotted the data on a scatter plot with a horizontal axis representing S and the vertical axis representing M. The equation was M equals 1/2 S plus 3. According to the line, if there are 52 students ahead of Howard, when will he get to the lunch line? So S represents the students, right? So M equals 1/2 times 52 plus 3. So what's 52 times 1 divided by 2? 26 plus 3. M equals 29. So 29 minutes. Man. Can you imagine if our cafeteria took that long? All right, the next one says, the graph shows a set of data with 2 variables, and they want us to click on the characteristics. So we know that it's a positive association, and we know that it's nonlinear, and we know that it has an outlier. So I would click on those 3 to represent this graph. A car rental company charges $30 a day plus 75 cents for each mile. The total charge is Y. Total charge is Y for renting the car, and X is the miles, which can be determined by using the equation 30 plus 75 hundredths X. Use the equation and then answer the question. So what does the y-intercept represent? The $30 the company charged. $30 for using the car. What does the slope represent? The cost per mile. And what does the point 168 represent? Well, X represents the number of miles. So after 100 miles, it will cost $68. Because Y is the total cost. Okay, what is the slope of the data? So if I'm looking at my line of best fit, let's just grab out my ruler again. Well, I know it's going to be a negative slope. Okay, that's about as good as she's going to get. So So the rise is 20, and the run is 2, 4, 6, 8. So negative 20 over 8. And if I reduce that, it would be negative 10 over 4. And if I reduce that, it would be negative 5 over 2. Okay, they want us, a group of students were asked if they are in the math club and if they were in the literature club. Partial results are shown in the table. So of the students in the math club, 67% are not in the literature club. So if they're in the math club, of the students in the math club, 67% are not in the literature club. So that means that if I have my people and percent, I know that 36 represents 67%. So of the students in the math club, 63% are not in the literature club. So I want to figure out what percent are in the literature club. So that would be 33%, right? Because if I have a total of 100, I know that 33%. So I divide by 67 and then multiply by 33. So 36 divided by 67 times 33. So I get 17.7, which would be about 18. So approximately 18 people. All right, now it says of the students not in the math club, 78% are not in the literature club. So they're not in the math club. 78% are not in the literature club. So that means this would be 100 minus 78. So that's 22%. So I know 14 people make up 22%, and I want to figure out what 78% is. So I'm going to divide by 22. And I get 0.63 repeating. Then I'm going to multiply by 78. So that's 49.6, so about 50 people. So 18 plus 50 is 68. Would be my final answer. All right, approximately what percent of the students who own a cell phone are in 8th grade? So you have to own a cell phone and you have to be in 8th grade. So I've got to figure out that total. So it's going to be 95 plus 103 plus 110. So that's 308. and in 8th grade. So the ratio is going to be 110 divided by 308. And I get 35.357. So 36%. So 36% of the students who own a cell phone are in the 8th grade. All right, what percent of the students ride a bus or a car to school? Okay, so there are 350 students, and they ride a bus or a car to school. So I've got to add up those numbers. So 30 plus 31 plus 22 plus 42 plus 17 plus 12. I get 154. So my ratio is 154 out of 350. So I'm going to do 154 divided by 350, and I get 44 as a decimal. So I'm going to move my decimal over 2 places to the right, and I get 44%. So 44% of the school arrives either by bus or car. A total of 137th and 8th grade students were asked whether they preferred to read fiction or poetry. The results are in the table. So they want the relative frequency of the girls that prefer fiction. So we're just talking about fiction. So 79 out of 130. And I get 607. So I get about 61%. And if they want it as a fraction, I'd leave it like that. All right. What is the relative frequency of being a 7th grader given that they prefer tacos? A 7th grader that prefers tacos. So of the 7th graders, that's 35 out of 33 plus 35 is 68. So 35 divided by 68 is 51. So 51%. Okay, a teacher asked 155 students which type of music they prefer to listen to. More students prefer jazz than all other types of music. Well, jazz is 85, R&B is 60, and classical is 10. So more students prefer jazz. I think that's probably true. More boys than girls prefer classical music. That's not true. More than half of the students prefer R&B music. Well, half of the students, so 155 divided by 2 is 77 students, so that's not true. More than half of the students prefer jazz music, so that is true. All right. They have an equation, and they want to know what would be the approximate melting time for frozen ice cream at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So I know 60 degrees Fahrenheit is the Y, and the minutes is the X. So I've got 60 equals negative 3X plus 108. So I'm going to subtract 108 on each side, and I get negative 48 equals negative 3x. Divide by negative 3. X equals 16. So it would take 16 minutes. All right, the Olympic archery team has 5 archers. Each member tracked their average score from the last 10 practices. Write an equation to represent the model. So your line of best fit needs to fit in the middle of your data. All right, so I'm going to put it there. I know my y-intercept is going to be a little less than 50, more than 40, or more than 25, I should say. So I'm going to guess 45. Now, on your test, it's going to be a lot more obvious, so don't worry about it. Okay, so I've got a point here and a point here. So they're counting by 25. So 25, 50, 75. And then across the bottom, each block is 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20. So I got 75 over 20. So I'm going to divide by 5. And I get 15 over 4 would be my slope. So I've got y equals 15 fourths x plus 45. Now on your test tomorrow, it's going to be a lot more clear what that y-intercept is, so don't panic. Okay, over the past 5 months, they're looking at weight, and they want to know which statement best describes Simon's weight over the 5 months. Well, we know that he's losing weight, so he didn't gain any weight. And if we want to figure it out over a month, we know this is 1 and this is 5, so he loses about 5 pounds each month. All right, write an equation that best represents this, so I'm going to grab my ruler. Okay, so I know that I'm counting by 50. So 50's 100, 150. So I got 150, and that's counting by 2s, divided by 2. So I get 75. So y equals 75x. And then this is going through the origin, so I don't have to write plus 0. I just know that if there's no y-intercept, it's going through the origin. All right, if you have any questions, come see me in the morning. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.